The legend of King Mahabali. The legend of King Mahabali is the most popular and the most fascinating of all legends behind Onam. Onam celebrates the visit of King Mahabali to the state of Kerala every year. The festival is celebrated with great fervor as King Mahabali is greatly respected by his subjects. So, children, let me tell you this lovely story about King Mahabali. The story goes that the beautiful state of Kerala was once ruled by an Asura demon king, Mahabali. The king was greatly respected in his kingdom and was considered to be wise and extremely generous. It is said that Kerala witnessed its golden era in the reign of King Mahabali. Everybody was happy in the kingdom. Rich and poor were equally treated. People did not even lock their doors, as there were no thieves in that kingdom. There was no poverty, sorrow, or disease in the reign of King Mahabali, and everybody was happy. Mahabali was the son of Virochana and grandson of Prahlad, the devout son of demon king Hiranyakashipu. Mahabali had a son called Bana. Mahabali belonged to Asura, demon dynasty, but was an ardent worshipper of Lord Vishnu. His bravery and strength of character earned him the title of Mahabali Chakravarti or Mahabali, the king of kings. Looking at the growing popularity and fame of King Mahabali, gods became extremely concerned and jealous. They felt threatened about their own supremacy and began to think of a strategy to get rid of Mahabali. To curb the growing reign of Mahabali and maintain their own supremacy, Aditi, the mother of gods, sought help of Lord Vishnu. It was said Mahabali was very generous and charitable. Whenever anybody approached him for help or requested for anything, he always granted. To test King Lord Vishnu disguised himself as a dwarf and a poor Brahmin called Vamana. He came to the kingdom of Mahabali just after Mahabali performed his morning prayers and was preparing to grant boons to Brahmins. Disguised as Vamana, Vishnu said he was a poor Brahmin and asked for a piece of land. The generous king said he could have as much land as he wanted. The Brahmin said that he wanted as much land as could be covered by his 3 steps. The king was surprised to hear, but agreed. A learned advisor of the king Shukracharya sensed that Vamana was not an ordinary person and warned the king against making the promise. But the generous king replied that it would be a sin for a king to back on his words, and asked the Brahmin to take the land. The king could not imagine that the dwarf Brahmin was Lord Vishnu himself. Just as King Mahabali agreed to grant the land, Vamana began to expand and eventually increased himself. With his first step, the Brahmin boy covered the whole of earth, and with the other step, he covered the whole of the skies. He then asked King Mahabali, where is the space for him to keep his third foot? The king realized that he was no ordinary Brahmin, and his third step will destroy the earth. Mahabali, with folded hands, bowed before Vamana and asked him to place his last step on his head so that he could keep the promise. The Brahmin placed his foot on the head of the king, which pushed him to Patal. There, the king requested the Brahmin to reveal his true identity. Lord Vishnu then appeared before the king in his person. The Lord told the king that he came to test him, and the king won the test. King Mahabali was pleased to see his Lord. Lord Vishnu also granted a boon to the king. The king was so much attached with his kingdom and people that he requested that he be allowed to visit Kerala once in a year. Lord Vishnu was moved by the king's nobility and was pleased to grant the wish. He also blessed the king and said, even after losing all his worldly possessions, the king would always be loved by Lord Vishnu and his people. It is the day of the visit of King Mahabali to Kerala that is celebrated as Onam every year. The festival is celebrated as a tribute to the sacrifice of King Mahabali. Every year people make elaborate preparations to welcome their king, whom they affectionately call Onatappan. People wish to please the spirit of their king by depicting that his people are happy and wish him well. The second day, Thiruvonam, is the biggest and the most important day of this festival. It is believed that King Mahabali visits his people on the second day. During the last 2 days, a grand sandhya and ceremonial feast takes place at the temple. The festivities end on the 10th day, when Lord Vamana is taken for his ritual bath. in an elephant procession, known as Aratu. This marks the end of Grand Onam Festival. I wish you all a very happy Onam, my dear children. Hope you all enjoyed the story.